welcome to Whose Turn Is It Anyway, a podcast all about our gaming group and of course board games. I'm Kerley, your returning first player, and I'm joined by players Tambo.
Hello.
Adrian.
Hello.
And J Pizzle.
Thanks. It's back again.
To talk all about grudge matches or head-to-heads, 1v1s. How's everyone doing today, guys? So, Tambo.
I'm okay, mate. Tired, hot. It's like roasting today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely roasting. It's near enough 30 degrees today, isn't it?
We're having a bit of a heat wave in the UK, which means it's over 20 degrees. But now it's actually over 30, isn't it? Is it 30? Did it get to 30?
I think it said 28 today on the weather forecast.
Humidity's high though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it would have been a lot hotter if the sun was out today. It wasn't out, was it? So, yeah.
Typical Brits moaning about the weather.
There we are. Sounds about right.
Yeah, so I'm okay. Just, working in the kitchen, slowly cooking.
I don't know how you're in the kitchen doing it.
So slowly lamb shanks, mate. Being the sheep of the group, I would just be slowly cooking.
Oh, the lamb shank of the group.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it.
How about you, Adrian?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a busy week for me this week, I'll be honest. I think I've played 5 out of the last 8 days of board games, and I've got today recording the podcast, and then I think in 2 days' time I've got another games day, and then another games day after that or something.
You're doing more than I am.
It's been busy, and then I've got like a week and a half gap pretty much. So yeah, which will be nice.
Yeah. That's fair.
I've really enjoyed the games I've played, so yeah, it's been a packed but good sort of week and a bit.
Excellent. J Pizzle?
Yeah, just transitioning from holiday mode to normal mode, really.
We've missed you, mate.
Thanks. Is that you being serious?
I've missed the amount of board games that you tend to bring with you.
Yeah, you missed the gaming events.
Yes.
Right, we're getting to the crux of it.
Yeah, that's it.
Has it been a bit sparse for the past few weeks?
You know what? I've kind of treated it as a little bit of a mini break.
Yeah. I have as well.
Not that not that I've played no board games, but there's definitely been a lot less less in my calendar anyway. So it's been nice to play a few computer games.
Nice to
stuff
do
with
that.
Becky. I've started doing a little Lego model, just little things.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I am doing Optimus Prime.
Oh,
very nice.
Yeah, I've bought the super deluxe one. It was on sale in Savvy, and it transforms and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've me and Becky are going to do that together, which is quite
nice. I just did a Star-Lord's helmet, and that's not sexual. That is his actual helmet. But yeah, I picked that up while I was away, and I thought I'll just give myself a little mini one to do. I loved it.
I thought that was a nickname for your junk, mate.
Yeah, that's what she calls it.
Yeah,
no. But yeah, I'd be impressed if she calls it Star-Lord's helmet.
Yeah, you take that as a compliment.
I would,
right?
mate. I would.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so I'm pretty much the same as you guys. Been absolutely roasting at work, but as usual, not too bad to be fair. Right, glad you're well, guys. So let's move on to the next section. Okay then, guys. So let's talk about Hex. What have you guys been up to? What have you been playing? Anything happened recently that you want to talk about? Start us off, Adrian. What have you been up to, mate?
As I say, lots of games recently, but what I'd like to talk about in this section is the Century series. So whether you have Spice Road or the Golem edition, and then the series of games that follow that, they're basically exactly the same series, just one is sort of painterly trading spices and the other is anime gems is the difference between the two, but mechanically they're identical. I happen to have the Golem edition, so that's probably the terminology I will be using. So I played 1, 2 and 3 separately quite a long time ago, and I've sort of played them a lot since separately, and the third one is by far the weakest in my opinion. I know some people really like it, but personal opinion is I think it's the weakest. It's the most simple, most bare bones, to the point where I was considering selling it. And I thought, well, before I do that, they combine, right? So you can transform them like Optimus Prime into
Nice.
Segue.
Callback. Right. So
What about Star-Lord? No? Okay. Ignore that.
Not talking about that. You can combine them. So I thought, well, let's try one of the combinations with the third game, because that will decide whether I sell the third game or not, probably. So I combined the first one, which is the Spice Road or Golem edition, with the third one, which is Endless World or New World, I think, if you're in Spice Road. And I combined those two together, and I must say it was a great game and really stepped the two sort of systems up. So the standard sort of a new Endless World is a really simple worker placement where you get a bunch of workers and you can go in a spot and then you get 2 gems, or you get to upgrade gems, or you get to buy golems. And if you want to go somewhere where someone's already been, you have to put one more than what's already there of theirs. And you can rest and take everything back into your hand. And there's a bit of sort of set collection, and certain golems give you discounts for buying other cards or going to other spots. Like, so a place that would cost 3 workers if you've got a certain card, it will say, well, this spot is now only 2 workers to go there. It's very simple, to the point where it's a bit too simple. When you add in the Spice Road or Golem Edition, the first game, into the third one, you flip. It's quite clever. The board comes in 4 parts, and you flip certain bits depending upon which combinations of games you play.
Okay.
So, like, they've all got 2 sides, and for the base one, you play with the A side for all of them, and then for certain combinations, you'll play some with the B side or the C side or whatever it is, as they call it on different ones. And what it does is it adds the base cards in. So the base cards would exactly the kind of similar thing where it's you gain a gem or you upgrade gems, but it adds it into your own personal worker placement spot. So to go to the first card, it costs you 1 worker. To go to the second card, it costs you 1 worker plus 1 worker to every card to the left that hasn't been used so far.
Right, okay.
So you're kind of trying to work from left to right. If you're using your own, you can just purely play on this middle board, but if you're using the cards from the base edition as your sort of worker placement spots, that were the ones in front of you, you kind of want to work them from left to right. So you're building an engine. Yeah. And it just radically increased the thought process required, and it turned it into what I thought was a light and maybe slightly dull Euro game into maybe a light midweight Euro with a bit more thinking and a bit more sort of having to plan your turns out. And sometimes it's good to go on your own board because you don't want to sort of pull all your people back and reset locations for other people around the board. And it just really elevated it. And I was like, well, I've got to keep the set now, haven't I? Because I would absolutely play the combination of 1 and 3 again. Whereas I wouldn't have played third on its own. And I'm now intrigued to try 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 because you can have all those combinations. Yeah. It's just kind of reinvigorated me to try those combinations again. And it's taken 2 games that are very light. You know, Century's a sort of hand management game by the golems, etc. The other's a worker placement game, buying some golems. And it doesn't have hand management in it anymore, but it does have a tableau builder, engine builder, and the worker placement. And the worker placement just has slightly more thought process to it. You have to be a bit more careful about how you place the workers. It just turns it into a much better game, in my opinion, the combination of the 2. So really happy I tried it. I've been talking about it for ages. And it just so happened that I saw someone online say, oh, this is my favourite mode of these 2 together. Yeah. And I can't remember whether that was the ones that I played or not, but I was like, right, I need to try combining these things again because otherwise I'm just going to sell off. Definitely the third one, and maybe even the second one. I do enjoy the second one on its own, but definitely the third one. As soon as I combined them together and played the game, I was like, no, I've got to keep the set because it's...
I'm really kind of pleased with that because I used to own Spice Road and I had the second one. Was it Eastern Wonders?
Yeah, Eastern Wonders or Eastern Mountains, yeah.
And I played them separately. I knew you could combine them, never quite got round to it. Kind of moved on and then sold them in the end. So to kind of hear about your experiences and you know, dabbling with that mode, that's really good because that's kind of like, I always wondered how it would work. I always wondered if it would just be a bit like tacked on.
Yeah.
You know, oh yeah, you can combine these 3 games and be like, should you combine these 3 games? But it sounds like they've really thought about how to use those components to actually generate a new game.
Yeah.
In essence. Yeah.
It's interesting, I think, with that one. Do you think then that the third one has suffered from the flexibility of allowing it to combine has made it suffer as a standalone?
That was my thought process, I must admit. So there is... It's not a terrible game, and I think if you're new to worker placements and new to board games in general, getting these 3 sets, you've got a hand management game, you've got a pick up and deliver game, and you've got a very basic worker placement game. And I think if you haven't played a lot of other worker placement games, those 3 games would actually be pretty good. They're pretty good entry level. They do what they need to do. But having played lots of other worker placement games, I found that the third one was just a little bit lacking for what I was expecting. But I do think that they've designed the third one because of how modular it is. Like everything is printed with a like a 1, 2, or 3, and it's like you're using set 1 and 2 of this for this game. You're using set 2 and 3 of this for this combination. So I don't know whether it's necessarily suffered because of it, but I feel like they've had to rein it in maybe a little bit, or sort of put sort of cuffs on it a little bit, so that it does interact in being able to combine all these different sets together.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting kind of tactic from them to try and combine all three of them. I'd never heard of that before. You guys might know of another one that does it, but I don't. But yeah, I think that's quite interesting actually. So excellent. Glad to hear it. What about you, T?
So Adrian and JP and I played Trickerion on Monday. It was my first ever play. It was really enjoyed it. Well, I say enjoyed it. It was painful.
As
Mind Clash games go, it was obviously very painful. I did a video first, which was always handy. I always recommend watch a video first before you first play a Mind Clash game, like a quick playthrough or a quick how to play. Yeah. There is no quick how to play really, not in a Mind Clash. But no, it was really really fun. It was okay.
Good.
Yeah, I got a bit disappointed halfway through, but I'll go for that in a minute. Visually, the board is awesome, and the cards were. They just look amazing, all the tricks, and the whole thing was very clever. I said to JP at the end, that's a very clever organised game. Like, who thinks of doing tricks and being a sorcerer or a magician and put it into a game and doing a show? It's very clever.
Yeah, it's really good casting those spells.
No, it's tricks.
Yeah.
I've got to go JP on tricks. There's a card called Buried Alive. That's not a spell.
Yeah, you're going to piss me off.
It's wizards.
Not wizards
spells.
It's not. Now stop it and behave yourself.
The thing is it could be, right? So,
it could be, but it's not.
Well, it could be. How do you know one of them isn't secretly an actual wizard casting spells?
I think that's what it is. He just puts on the whole workshop and making them just.
Look, I accept the thematics. That Dalgard, who's the master magician in the game,
so he's a wizard.
has a Trickerion stone which is magical. I accept that because that's part of the
you've got Trickerion shards the whole way through.
Yeah,
They're using
I
those
accept
to cast
magic
their magic
exists, but they're called tricks. So shut up.
This is a running joke. By the way.
It's going to be a huge debate all the time now, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not a debate. I know full well it's tricks. I just why did JP up?
Carry on, Tambo.
It's fine. So as Mind Clash games go, I find it the most punishing for me so far.
Yeah.
Because I made a big mistake. I only carried 3 workers up to at least round 6. I tried to get one in round 5. It was just literally there was one X on one of the dice, and I had to roll the other one to hopefully get one. But it came to an X.
Of course it did. Yeah.
That's my rolling for you. So, and then I was punished to around 6 with 3 workers, and I found that's what slowed me up in the whole game, and it got quite disappointing. I was like, got a bit grumpy.
Oh.
I was like, I got quite quiet, but after that though, it did book up. I stitched JP up. Accidentally.
That's the best way to increase
I took his tricks.
He started laughing then.
Yeah. But you always have to keep looking at the book. You never get your eyes off the book and try and find all the different routes for the tricks. So that's a very good little rule book they've got, isn't it?
The little player aid. Player aid. It's like definitely a menu, isn't it? It's like you got head deep in a menu.
Yeah, that's it. And if your eyes aren't on that, you're not doing it right. I don't think you've got to be looking at that all the time. But then I also found that when you put your tricks into the show and you choose the day and then you've got to turn them to get the right bonuses from it, I found that quite confusing. But like you say, don't write it on your first game. It took the whole game for me to get around that, I think, for myself.
Yeah.
But I got it at the end, I think. So
takes everyone a game to get their head around the theatre.
Yeah, the theatre was the hardest part.
It's the hardest bit to explain to any new player, just because it's quite finicky. It's quite kind of particular in got to put these here, but then it depends on if you're performing. If you're not performing, what yield modifiers you're getting, and then but if you orient the token that way, you get the link bonus. But then you get the shard, and I get the shard. There's a lot going on in just such a one action space. It's the worst bit to get your head around.
Because actually, the rest of it, I think personally, is not. It's maybe closer to mid heavyweight than heavyweight. What takes it into heavyweight, in my opinion, is that theatre and getting your head around.
And also ducks in a row, like it's difficult. Yeah, the programming side of it, where you got to learn the trick. You've then got to get the materials for the trick. You've got to make the trick. Then you've got to set up the trick, and then you've got to perform the trick. I find that bit there probably elevates it a little bit to a heavier level.
I think it's punishing because of it. I don't think it's heavier. I think it is more punishing if you get that bit wrong, but I think there's a lot of games that do go through a bit of a life cycle if you have to collect things to make things, to sell things or whatever.
I think it's the fact you have to program your 3, 4, 5, 6 whatever workers to go through that life cycle. And just as Tambo mentioned, I got trick blocked, so anyone who's played Trickerion will know what I'm talking about. which is you gear up for a certain trick with a certain set of components, and if some bugger called Tambo robs you of that trick one turn before, and I happened to leave the room, didn't I?
You did,
I was all like smug going, I'm going to get my level 36 trick, and I'm going to do this, and I'm like, oh shit, where's it gone?
Are you going for this one?
You got this one. No! And then suddenly you're screwed, because then, you know, wasn't planning to go to Market Row, I wasn't planning to get more components, and now I need to, and I'm like, damn.
That's kind of the point of what I mean, really, is that it's the game that I feel like I have to think furthest ahead in order to make it successful.
Yes.
You can get to a point. I agree. You can get to a point where you unveil and you know that it's sort of squeaky bum time because other people are going possibly to where you need to go, and you're like, right now I really have to like prioritize where I need to definitely go, and could someone now steal something that I hadn't expected them to steal because I didn't think they were going to go to Market Row, because who would go to Market Row on round 7 or whatever. And so there is definitely some moments like that in it.
But overall, really enjoyed it. I hope we play it again. I hope it's soon as well, otherwise I'm just going to leave my head again.
Well, Becky's keen to play.
Yeah, so I'll try and
I have been naughty with Trickerion because there is a mode which doesn't have Dark Alley in. And it plays 4 rounds, which is the tutorial game, essentially. And I should probably play that with new players.
No, I don't know. Dark Alley wasn't that confusing to me. It was.
I think it's the length of it, though, as well.
Yeah.
See, I don't know if I like it anywhere near as much as I do without Dark Alley. Dark Alley just adds a lot of...
I'm with you, but I'm thinking from people's appetite to learn it and get used to the system, because you have more assignment cards, you have more flexibility of where you can go.
So that might be quite wise of Becky, maybe.
Maybe.
There's only 5 rounds, isn't it? It's less rounds.
It's a smaller, shorter game,
I've also found, because I'm 3 games in now, and the crystal ball thing... Prophecies, whatever, that's the one. Whatever they're called.
Definitely not spells.
Didn't say spells. God, triggered much. The prophecies will quite often... I will forget about them, or someone will be able to move them around, or something that catches you out or annoys you a little bit more, and that is still the bit. All the other bits and pieces I've kind of feel like I've got and I've understood, and I've played through 3 games, and I left like 8 months between game 1 and game 2, which was a mistake, but kind of got it back into it again. Those prophecies are the bit that I find are the bits that always trip me up, or I feel like it adds a bit that I'm always not expecting or forgotten about, or something like that, and then suddenly it's like, oh, by the way, this round now all your workers count as only having 1 action point. Oh, well, I'd planned for...
Well, see, I quite like that.
Yeah, I do.
But the thing that I would really miss is the extra cards on the bottom.
The extra cards are great. It's the prophecies that I think adds a bit too much, maybe for newer players or for people who perhaps aren't.
Well, because that's part of Dark Alley. So
I know.
It's all or nothing with it, really.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're going to give it another go anyway. At the very least.
100%.
Yeah, good. How about you, Jay Pizzle?
Yes, I was going to talk about Viticulture World, or also known as Dark Souls, the board game.
Yeah.
There is a Dark Souls the board game.
There is the Dark Souls.
It's not Dark Souls the board game.
It's not the same thing. But I'm talking about its difficulty level. For those that don't know what Viticulture World is, it's a cooperative expansion which basically lets you play viticulture as a team, which is really weird. It is weird. I still kind of can't get my head around playing that game cooperatively yet. So it's kind of like you have all your hand of cards and you're like, guys, look what I can do. Like all of these kind of vines and contracts and all the usual stuff, but you can kind of trade with other people as you go using your grande worker. The board is kind of simplified back to its kind of base game with summer and winter. The difference is that instead of kind of training more workers and getting more workers to use, you have restricted workers with these little hats on. So you have these summer hats and winter hats. So you have 2 of your workers with summer, 2 of your workers with winter, and that's the only season that they can work until you train them and you take the hat off and they can go wherever the hell they like. And the other thing that they kind of introduce in there is innovations, which is actually the cool bit, where you can kind of innovate the board by improving the action spaces and make them more efficient, or you can actually improve the board by opening up the worker placement spot so that anybody can go, a number of people can go there. So because I think in this version you have 2 worker
You have
spots.
2 worker spots
Yeah.
for 1 to
3, isn't it?
3. Yeah,
That's it,
you're
4
only
to
allowed
6.
1 spot, and then 4 plus you're allowed
Yeah.
both spots.
So the
use
board
both spots.
feels tighter than typical viticulture, especially Tuscany, which I'm used to, which is like, go for whatever you like.
Really?
Yeah.
So I've only played Tuscany 2-player,
Oh, okay.
and I feel that it's possibly not great at 2-player because
You only get the 1 spot.
if you're not out of rhythm of each other, someone ends up losing out because
Yeah.
someone has to go out of rhythm. But anyway, that's a
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
different
I
subject,
never
but-
felt this kind of punished
Yeah.
in the ball tightness anyway. So the purpose of the kind of game is that you get a set of scenarios that you can kind of play, which are different continents around the world. Hence Viticulture World. So you can play in like Asia, kind of Europe, the Americas,
Oceania,
all of that kind of lovely stuff. And they add twists to the rules to the game. And we've played Green Gully, which is the first one. We played Asia, and we've played Oceania.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the 3 that we played. So the first game we played, which is quite a few weeks back now, we comfortably did it, didn't we?
Yeah, very easily, yeah.
Well, it was looking a little bit hit or miss, and then like the last couple of cards it gives you
Yeah.
is like have loads of free stuff to get you across the line, and suddenly we'd like romped it by a
I think
mile.
we'd have done it without that. Is
I
the
think
point.
we would have, but it would have been very close.
It would have been closer.
True.
And then suddenly it went have loads of extra
Loads of things.
points and got there's like the pink leaf tracker, whatever that is
Influence,
called,
yeah.
influence tracker, that you have to get to the end of the tracker to
Yeah.
win. And it was like have a load of these out of nowhere, and it's like, all right, okay, fair enough.
That's
Yeah.
right, you have to get 10 influence collectively between you, and you all have to score 25 victory
I was
points.
just about to ask, how do you win?
That's
'Cause-
the win
And
condition.
how do you lose? So is there a certain time you've only got a
As
certain
in-
amount of rounds?
There's
Don't
6
do
years,
those 2
yeah.
things. You got 6 years.
6 years.
That's it.
That's it.
And you think, Christ. And sometimes in games like the one last night, we got to year 4 and we just got going at half the things. But that's the kind of game. It's still viticulture. It's just weird that you kind of play it openly. But the difficulty level is right up there. It's a
Yeah.
proper puzzle. I mean, last night we nearly did it.
Yeah.
We were probably,
Well, one
Two
of us
actions
was about
probably-
5 VP off, right? And-
Two workers, two extra workers
yeah,
would have got us across the line. I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because between us we had the right amount of money and the right bits and pieces to do it. We were just 2 workers short of
We just
Yeah.
getting them happening.
we
so-
missed something along the way, but yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's definitely a challenge, and I think if it was too easy, we'd probably blitz through all the scenarios and never play it again. But the fact that it is a challenge means you are sitting there thinking, talking, and trying to work out the best way forward. I just find it weird in that game because I've played viticulture for how many years competitively, and I'm still kind of like,
Yeah,
no,
it's
I need
weird.
to be open and I need to kind of ask. Are you going there? Do you need to go there? Can I go there? Because I need to do this thing. And yeah, it's just it
Weird.
flips on its head, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I really like it. It's not really issues with it because it increases the difficulty, but I'm not sure it plays very well at 3-player, if I'm brutally honest.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that, so what it does, guys, is that the worker placement place in the normal game of Viticulture World, you've got 2 spaces to pick from. When you play 3-player, it gives you a bit of a leg up on the influence, which you've got to get 10 of, and it starts you on 3 instead of 0. But it reduces down the number of spaces to 1 on each one, and I think that's disproportionately restrictive. Because we found so many times, and we had to go out of our way to get the innovations as well to make sure that we could go down with as many as we could.
Yeah.
And so it
Which
felt
costs money.
quite punishing.
Yeah.
It felt quite punishing that. And also, I do feel like, and I had it this bad, and I just about got over the line with it, but I drew really bad on the green cards at the start, and I just felt like
Most
I
of us
was
did,
hamstrung
didn't we?
straight off the
Yeah.
bat. But if we'd have drawn well, then with that, I feel like if we replayed it, we could easily win without playing very much better, just down to
Yeah.
some.
But then you got to ask yourself, like, it's down then to look not whether you win or not, but obviously to make it easier that you've won that scenario. It's because we
Yeah.
had a lucky draw first hand, whereas I'd feel better if it was because we actually cooperated and worked and talked it through and we figured the puzzle out.
I
and got
feel
there.
like
Do you know what I
we
mean?
really cooperated really well last.
Yeah, we did, to be
Yeah,
fair.
and I felt like that. Like we played well.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like that we made that many mistakes.
Yeah. I'm still trying to work out whether I prefer competitive Viticulture Tuscany. I think I do, in my opinion, but I'm enjoying this cooperative spin.
It's I found this with Ares Expedition Crisis, is it's just taking a system you know and you're comfortable with to some extent and putting enough of a twist on it to turn it co-op.
Yeah.
And I'm quite enjoying that because if you've got people who know viticulture and they know it sort of competitively, then yes, there are some extra rules and some extra different thought processes, but for the most part, you know that life cycle of got to plant, got to harvest, got to turn into wine, got to fulfill contracts, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of the same with that Ares Expedition Crisis co-op version, is it's very much doing a lot of the same things, just with a slightly different mindset to it. The thing that I struggle with, and I struggled with it last night, was, as you said, turn 4, I think I'd made 1 bottle of wine.
That's because I gave it to you, I think, isn't it?
No, okay, I had 2 because you gave me 1 and I'd made another one. But yeah, it escalates so quick at the end. I feel like I can't easily see whether we're going to get it or not until like almost just the 6th turn, and like
it's demoralising a bit, isn't it?
It is, and one of the hardest games that I've played co-op is Ghost Stories, and it's well known for being an absolute horror of a game for A, teaching, and B, playing and getting to the end and all that kind of stuff. And yet I think I tilt less on that game. So for those who don't know, tilt is the term where you kind of, your headspace goes a bit wonky because you're frustrated with something and you tend to sort of get a little bit in your own head. But I tend to tilt less with Ghost Stories than I've done with the Viticulture World because I struggle to see how we're doing.
Yeah. There's a big steep
like
curve,
suddenly at the
isn't
last minute it just sort of shoots off, and I find it hard to kind of judge where we're at and judge how we're doing, and you're like, oh, end of turn 4 we've all got like 9 points each and the leaf is on the 7 spot or whatever, how are we can do this in 2 turns? And it's tough, like from a sort of mental point of view. I find it quite a tough game. Really enjoy it, but yeah, definitely tough. And
But we need a win, don't we?
We do need a win.
I think we need a win.
Yeah,
so
we need a win.
Otherwise, it's going to get really difficult.
I say we replay one of them, to be honest.
I will do.
Yeah,
It'll be either Asia or Oceania again.
I think I prefer Oceania,
I prefer that to Asia,
Yeah.
Well, there we are. So for myself, I'm going to go just do quite a quick one on this one. So what I've been doing lately is playing a lot of Board Game Arena.
You have?
I have. Playing a lot of Art Nova primarily, although I've done a little bit of Lost Ruins of Arnak as well. Just wanted to talk about how much I'm enjoying that, really. The BGA is what they tend to call it. Version of Art Nova.
The kids
down with the kids, mate.
Yeah.
Unlike your rapping.
That's Shell's presence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was charming. The proper dad joke to go with the dad rapping you did earlier on at your daughter.
She loved it.
Oh, did she? Okay.
Yeah, she thinks I'm cool.
Yeah.
Carry on, move on.
Very, very cool. So the BGA, it's got a really good version of Art Nova. It's got a really good version of most games, to be fair. But Art Nova, it just if you're into that, it plays really, really well. Really obvious. The interface is brilliant. Just thoroughly enjoying it. And what's good about it is you can play whenever you want. So me and Davey sat down the other day and just did a couple of games one after the other because it doesn't take very long on BGA. Everything's set up for you. It's all done automatically. So it took about 1 hour and 20 per play, something like that.
That's
pretty good. And we just, we finished one game. We didn't even talk really. We just kind of went like rematch and went straight into it because it was like, not late enough. That was really good fun playing it live. But then what I've been doing, I've got 3 games simultaneously going on at the minute where you just do it when you get a chance. So when you get 2 minutes in the day and you're on a break, or you're waiting for the cup of coffee to boil, you can take a turn and then send it to the other person.
Because you've been playing it on computer and on your phone,
Yeah.
haven't you? And I always thought BJ on a phone must be, and I think you had reservations when you first talked about it, if I remember correctly. That you were like, I'm not sure how this is going to work. How does it work on phone?
So yes, very well, but there's 2 little things that I would say if I were to give them feedback, is that the chat function's not great on a phone. I'm talking about iPhone. It might be okay on Android, I can't tell you, but when you go into the chat function, when you type, you cannot see what you're typing until you press the return button.
Yeah, I've seen that on some
So
apps
it's a
before.
bit of a gamble, as to, do you know what I mean? Like, and you know how bad my typing is as well. I make a right pig's ear of it.
I didn't mean to call you a
so-
helmet.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? That's exactly what it is. So that's annoying. But apart from that, the only other thing is that it doesn't seem to have an easy way for you to go onto a card and get the information from it.
Like you'd hover over normally, wouldn't
Exactly. So and exactly, it does it on PC. You just literally click on it, and it brings up a little description of exactly, and even more than the actual card has got on there. It gives you all basically the rule book little bit as well.
It's like the rules reference of
Yeah,
that
exactly.
card, isn't it?
And it's brilliant on PC, but on you can't even look at the card once you've played it, for an example, unless it happens to be on the top on your phone.
Right, okay.
So what I tend to do is, if there's something big, I either look it up in a glossary, because you can find it all online anyway, or just wait until I'm back on the PC to have a look at it. But yeah, those are the only two things. Apart from that, it works absolutely perfect. Like, you can zoom in, you can do everything that you would imagine, but those two functions. But it's get-aroundable, I would say, but just a little bit, yeah, like I say.
How do you find like running multiple games at one go? I mean, obviously you're
Mistakes are made. I was
going to say,
I
think if I had 3 games of Art Nova on the go, I wouldn't know what game I was doing on what. You know what I mean? Like, this game I'm applying this strategy, and then this second game I'm applying a different strategy.
It's all right if you play the same game in a row, but if it's like one person does one thing and then you go back to it later on, and it's all like this person's responding, the other person hasn't. You know?
Yeah.
But it's not been too bad as long as you go into it, and I would say you take maybe 30 seconds just to make sure you've got a grip on that game. So for example, I'm like, right, which are the cards that are nearer the top? Am I near to any of the conservation goals?
Yeah.
You know, and what have I got in my hand? Have I got money? Is it close to the break? So those are the little checks I just
well,
have
you
a
know
little
the
look
game
around.
anyway, don't you? You know Art Nova really well.
And that's the point. I don't think I would want to play a game on there that I didn't know quite well. But for an example, one mistake I did make recently is I spent the whole game working towards a final scoring card was for a different game. So I was like, yeah, look at all these small animals I'm getting out, this little flipping cheeky grin on my face, and then I went, oh, I've got research icons on this. So yeah, it happens, but I think the negatives, and that is kind of one of them, of playing multiple games at the same time, but you could say that of anything really.
That's just
If you
that's
were
not
trying
PGA's
to,
fault, is it?
No, that's it. If you're trying to juggle too many things at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of it is get-aroundable, as long as you don't, get too invested in it, as far as like, don't mind if you lose too much, all that kind of stuff, But I'm really enjoying it, and playing a bit with Davey and one with young Dan Apsey and Ben Filler, all from our little gaming group. So really, really enjoying it. So yeah, there we are. That's what I've been up to.
Nice.
So, moving on to the next section, our little main event. Right, so down to the main event. We're talking about competitive head-to-head 1v1s.
Ding ding.
Yeah, so grudge match. So we're just going to have a little bit of a discussion about our favourites, the definition of it, some of the ups and downsides, that sort of thing. So I've got a bunch of kind of questions that I want to put to the group, really. But before we go into the questions, we'll talk about, the definition basically is a 2-player competitive game. That's kind of what I want to say, really. The board game that we're discussing today, they don't have to be designed as a 2-player, and we're going to talk about the positives and negatives of that, but just playing a board game 2-player. Competitive.
So it could be a 5-player, but playing it 2-player.
Exactly. Yeah. It's only I say that because me and Becky do that quite a bit. Convert them over,
Yeah.
So let's have a little bit of a chat about types of 1v1. So I've just put in it, and guys, I want you to add to these. But for an example with these ones, I've got war games. So some of my favourite, War of the Ring. I kind of put Star Wars Rebellion in there as well.
Yeah.
But you can make an argument for that being a little bit
kind
different.
of is a
kind
bit
of is
war gamey, isn't it?
One of my personal favourites, and this, we'll talk about our favourites in a bit, but it's a tough one actually. But Netrunner is 1v1 is, oh my god, it's good. So card games in general, all right. And I'm going to put down now. I don't know of many others like this. Maybe you guys can help me out with it. But Crokinole. So I think that's a really good 1v1 game, but are there many dexterity games that fit that 1v1, or is that pretty much
You've
it?
got Karuka, which is 1v1.
I mean, even Men at Work can be played. Well, I've played Men at Work 1v1 before.
Yeah.
From a dexterity point of view. So.
Jenga.
And then the other main one I was going to put into, and I was kind of, there weren't too many, but kind of higher player counts reduced down to a 2. That was kind of its own category for me. And there are ones that don't fit easily into it, like where do you put, for an example, where do you put Seven Wonders Duel? I don't really think that really fits into anything too well. Maybe a card game, maybe.
And I've got a few. I'd say that any kind of Euro game that you see out there is a sort of maybe a similar version, or there's a type of it that's that you can get in a 1v1 game. There are quite a few out there. I've got a few on my list.
Excellent.
Likewise.
So I think you've got the most of them covered, but I think there's plenty more than that. If you can just kind of cover it by 2-player Euros almost.
Yeah, but there's also like abstract games. which a lot of them are 2-player. Basically, you're forgetting chess, and you're forgetting backgammon and
100%
drafts.
Backgammon,
And
We got the Q series, haven't you? Like Corridor and Quarkle, I think it was I played recently.
Audi Quattro and all the others.
Yeah, sure, those ones.
So I guess we'll discuss what our favourites are in a minute, but what do we think makes a good 1v1?
I think, for me, when I think about 1v1 games, I'm probably thinking more about games designed as 1v1.
That's okay.
So what makes a good 1v1 game for me? It's you versus them. Like it's mano a mano, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of you's going to end up at the top. It's like a boxing match, right? It's quite exciting. And it's like everything's on you. They're doing everything to kind of stop you from winning, and you're doing everything to stop them from winning. You haven't got any other parties getting involved. It's a direct fist fight, but through board gaming.
It's interesting you say that, actually, and we'll get on to why in a minute.
Yeah. So that for me is why I like them. Doesn't make me good at them, but that's why I like them, because there's not many games that I feel like that when we play kind of larger multiplayer groups.
Yeah.
You're kind of doing your thing, but there's more players in there, and you're obviously getting in each other's ways and in various different game types. But yeah, for me, it's me against you. That's all that matters, and there's just different ways of orchestrating that through games.
Yeah, I'm agree with JP there. I think the elimination part, isn't it? When you're 1v1, you get to kill them. It's not like a VP. You get first highest VP. My favourite is
I win,
you win.
Yeah.
You're dead. I win. That's a good thing, I think. Yeah, but we play a couple of you get the highest VPs is good, but the elimination part is the fun bit.
He's the sheep of the group, by the way.
Yeah. I was thinking of saying that, and then I thought I won't. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think from a game design point of view, something that makes a good 1v1 in a specifically 2-player game is that both sides feel, one side might feel ahead, one side might feel behind, but they both feel like they're in it until it's done. So the game has either, using War of the Ring or Rebellion, one side feels massive at the start and they're going to slowly be dwindled or slowly caught or whatever.
Yeah.
But they'll always feel in it until they're actually done. And I think a lot of the great 1v1 games, whether it's a war game or not, gives you that feeling of being right in it, and then the game finishes when it needs to finish. It's not, because it's terrible in a 1v1 game when it's points based and you can see the points tracker and one person's miles behind, which happens in all games, right? But when there's 4 of you around the table, you kind of just have to take your lumps if you're miles behind.
Yeah.
But in a 1v1 game, it's rubbish because there's just 2 of you and you're miles behind.
Yeah, the seesaw's too much on the other way.
Yeah, it's too much. So a good 1v1 game will, in most plays of it, make you feel right, that you're right into it until it's done.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes a great 1v1 game.
So I've got down as just a few little ideas, not quite as specific, but just as general things, a little bit like you were saying, Adrian, and this might be part of it, is Becky put this one forward because I was kind of spitballing with her earlier on. A good catch-up mechanic.
Yeah.
And I think that is, for that reason, probably a good idea. I was like, actually, that's a good shout, because a lot of them, and it doesn't always have to be an obvious catch-up mechanic, but just little things, going first, all that kind of stuff. Things that make it so that one person isn't going to go too stupidly far ahead.
Even if it's a camouflage rather than a catch-up mechanic, even if it's camouflaging how far you are behind until suddenly you unveil it's, I've been done.
Yeah.
So that both sides feel in it. That's the thing, I think.
When you were talking about it, the one word that sprung to mind that you're trying to portray is maybe invested in that kind of...
Keeps you invested, yes.
Yeah, that's it. So even if it's, part of the theme is a lot to do with that, but as you say, part of it is feeling like you're actually,
have a chance.
It will just diminish the game. Like, you're absolutely right. If you feel like, well, this is over and it's 30 minutes in, then the game collapses on itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because one side just buckles or just gives up, and then that's not a great game.
Yeah.
So you want to be right there at the end. Who's going to win? Don't know. It's exciting. It's literally, am I going to throw the last punch or you? What's going to happen? Tense.
And that's where I find some of the multiplayer games boil down to 1v1. Some of them don't hit the mark because you do see all the points on the board and you can see where it's all going from very early on, and it's like, well, don't really want to sit here for another hour. And so they don't often make my get to the table when I'm playing 1v1. You need that catch-up mechanic or that camouflage or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So that moves us on nicely to the next segment, really, because really we haven't really talked too much about multiplayer games that play well at 2, and that I think is a different subject.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say is, what about a multiplayer, normal higher player count game makes it viable at a 2-player? And I'll just go first, just to give you some examples of what I mean. So, and some of this came from Becky as well. Not contentious. So although you can be contentious, obviously at a lower player count it dramatically changes. For example, if you're playing Twilight Imperium as a 2-player, the amount of bits you could have to yourself would change the game entirely, wouldn't it? You wouldn't ever have to go to war. Yeah. Really. Do you know what I mean? So it means games that are at a higher player count where contention works, reducing it down to 2 means that there is no contention and therefore it breaks the game.
Yeah.
All right, and I think that's perfectly viable, 100%. Yeah. Multi-role games is another one. So for an example, and this is more co-op for me, but I saw what me and Becky were just chatting through with it about it. Games where you've got multiple roles, where if the other one doesn't exist, then it wouldn't work. More of a cooperative thing in my mind, but I saw where she was going with it, and it's just really a matter of you kind of all working together. So if you just had a mechanic and a fighter, then you'd be missing out on someone who was there to keep the the groups.
The officer or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Nemesis, so you don't have the mechanic.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't have the mechanic to fix the ship, you're struggling a bit, or something like that.
That's it. So would that work as a 2-player, for example? Now it is more of a co-op, but it's kind of a, what is it I called it originally? A selfish
git game.
Yeah, selfish git game. So it's kind of in its own kind of right.
I think you can expand that further, which is a game that misses out a mechanic or a part of the board or something like that by going 2-player. Sometimes when you go 2-player, I'm sorry, I've beaten you to it.
No, you're fine.
But when you go 2-player, sometimes you lose an entire mechanism, or it becomes so much diminished it's not worth going to those spots.
Yeah.
And there's no if it's 2-player, cover this bit of the board or anything like that. It's just, quite often it's just left there. And I also think of things like Wingspan, the between round cards.
Yeah.
Where it's not between round, but it's if another player does this on the turn, those cards
are weaker, aren't they?
Are so much weaker that you never buy them.
Yeah.
So I've house ruled it before that when those cards come up, if we agree, just chuck them out of the shop, because it's a mechanism that kind of, it still says on the box it plays 2 players, and yet it really doesn't add to it. So anything that feels like it removes part of the game to make it fit into 2v2, like 1v1 is.
Yeah, but in Wingspan you can only do it once anyway. Round.
But when there's 4 people doing it, there's more chance of it
I suppose
happening.
if you're doing 2-player, you just look at that person's got that card, I'm going to stay away from it.
Yeah,
that ability.
Or that it's going to happen once every 4 or 5 turns, whereas chances are if you're playing 4 or 5 people, one person's going to do it, so you're going to benefit every single round.
But it can then just feels like it clogs up the shop if you just leave them there, because no one takes them. Yeah. And so that's why we've house ruled it before, just to get rid of those cards.
I think that's a sensible kind of workaround, really.
Yeah, anything like that where you feel like you're not getting the full... If you're playing at 4 players, this is the game, and then 2 players, I've only got really half the game. I find writes it off my 2-player list.
And going back to the Nemesis size, any hidden enemy stuff, which I appreciate, is we're not really talking about in a 1v1, but any hidden enemies, you couldn't reduce it down to 2-player.
I disagree.
Go on, tell me.
So Whitehall Mystery, one side plays Jack the Ripper, the other side plays the police officers. There's always 3 police officers, whether there's 1, 2 or 3 on the other side of the board. Whoever's playing the officers can get a little bit tunnel visioned with their thought is the right way, and they could possibly do with an ear to sort of talk to, but it still plays absolutely fine with one playing Jack the Ripper and the other player playing all the police officers. It's still pitched against each other.
That's probably a terminology problem. I mean games that you don't know who's who.
Oh, hidden roll.
Hidden roll.
So hidden movement be like your Fury.
Yeah, hidden movement, for example, might well work, because they tend to, for example, with Fury of Dracula, you would just control all 4 players, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to.
No, I'm not sure I would either.
But that's a different question.
Yeah. I think Whitehall Mystery is boiled down so much. It's such a more simplified version that it does work. Whereas I agree, I wouldn't want to play Fury of Dracula 1v1.
I'd play 3-player on it, but I don't think
I'd happily do Whitehall Mystery 1v1.
Yeah. Interesting. So, what I wanted to talk about as well, because I've got a little bit of a quote, because my brother absolutely hates 1v1 games. So I thought, as a nice little thing, I would say, okay, Jay, why?
Yeah.
So,
why, Jay?
Why, Jay?
Why?
And I thought we could discuss that, see if anyone feels the same or has the same issues with it. I don't think we do, but maybe just analyse it and just see how I feel.
I'm thinking of Rob.
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
And putting Rob
exactly.
in a 1v1 game, he'll hate it.
Yeah, he'd hate
And
it.
because, by his own admission, everything rides on him.
Yeah. That's basically what it comes down to. I'll read out the text he sent me because I did say I'm going to use this in the
Yeah, fair
podcast, so there's
enough.
no fruity language in there or anything. So,
That's a shame.
I don't like the fact that the pressure is purely on you to find a solution. All resources are directed against you, and that someone is purely getting inside your head. In a 3 or 4 player game, it's just up to you to find a solution to someone else's power creep, and if you're underpowered, you can still win it if you can set the other opponents against each other. So he likes to be the kind of the hidden, the sneaky one who then goes and wins type of thing. And
Yeah, we know that.
it's too much direct competition and pressure on him, I think.
You've got nowhere
for
to
the
hide,
game.
have you?
No.
You are in the sights. Like you say, the chips are down.
Yeah.
You've got to figure your way out of this before someone annihilates you.
See, and I like that because I
Yeah, I
hate
do.
it when I start to go ahead slightly and everyone goes, right, let's go pick on Kerley and beat him up, and then I end up losing, and that frustrates me. Whereas if it's one-on-one,
Don't
you
matter,
already
does it?
know that's the case. You know the other person's going to pick on you because what other choice have they got,
That's the
So you
game.
know where you are. So I prefer it that way. It's more of an onus on your own ability and,
Yeah, I think as well the 1v1 is quite. So we're all about playing War of the Rings soon, aren't we?
Yes.
But then I instantly say to you, I'm sorry, mate, but I'm not going to be much of a challenge because you're much better. So 1v1 games, you've got that pressure thinking, am I going to be a challenge?
yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of your night, because you want to make it fun. But that's all I always say if I play 1v1 and I don't think I'm very good.
That's
I'll
a good
mention
point.
it. Yeah, I'll always mention I'm not going to be very good at it, but I'm happy to play it. But I'm not going to be very good tactically.
I was saying to Adrian yesterday or the day before, I was saying that actually, hey, look, guys, we should always try and self-improve. And I've realised that probably, although I do kind of believe in always trying to win stuff, just because then if someone beats you, have they beaten the real you kind of thing? But I've kind of decided when it comes to 1v1 games specifically, I need to just dial it down a little bit. And just for the first couple of games, try and just do it as a teaching game. Purely, don't really try. I'm not saying don't try and win, but don't try and blow them out of the bloody water in with 100% of your complete ability, basically. So I had that in mind when we were playing. It's just a matter of I'm going to take it as I'm not going to say I'm not going to try and win, but my primary focus is going to be on teaching you how to play. And that's been a bit of
how to be competitive with it.
And it's one of them that certainly, mate, you don't have to worry about being a challenge for me. We'll just play.
That's fine.
I'm interested in trying to get you interested in it.
Yeah, I'll just bring up what people might think of 1v1 games if you're going into playing with someone. That's it. It always crosses my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it crosses a lot of people's mind in gaming anyway. Because we've got members of the group of are you sure I'm okay to attend this evening? Because I feel like I might waste a seat if I perform badly. And I just think that's crazy in my mind. I'm like, dude, just come and sit down and play. But I'd imagine that's heightened in a 1v1. Because as you say, it's on you. And if you feel like you're just not doing very well, it's a bit like playing a game of squash with someone who doesn't know how to play squash. It's not fun for either side.
Exactly. That's exactly how I see it. Is if you're amazing at squash and you just beat them, I don't even know. Is it 11 or 21?
11.
But if you beat them 11-0 every single time and you just batter them, then who's enjoying that?
Just smash your rack on the floor.
Do you know what I mean? They're never going to play with you again.
You play squash for the workout, right?
Yeah.
And you're not getting a workout because you're literally hitting the ball and they're not returning it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is boring.
This is
You
how
wanna
I
run
felt.
around.
Have you ever played badminton against Ian?
I have.
Yeah. It's very unpleasant.
Yeah, it's not fun.
So Ian used to play pretty much county level, right?
Level,
county level at badminton. And I just went to play with him. And don't get me wrong, I'm not awful, but I mean, to say he didn't do a workout is like I was like sweat dripping off me, barely breathe, and he's there.
He hasn't moved 2 foot from the centre of the court.
And he's like smashed me. I've got 3 points off him the whole night or something.
Yeah.
It was entirely pointless exercise. Put it that way.
That's why I play squash with them.
Yeah, you're safer that way, mate.
Yeah.
But there we are. Just thought it'd be an interesting thing.
But we love them.
But we love them.
We love them.
I do love them. And that kind of segues beautifully into the last little bit that I wanted to talk about, really. And that is, well, guys, what are your favourites? Just do a little mini deep dive on one of your favourites. And
Okay.
really, I'm going to start off with War of the Ring because we haven't done I was umming and ahhing between War of the Ring and Netrunner for a long time, but I thought we've done a deep dive on Netrunner.
Done a whole episode on Netrunner.
Done a whole episode on Netrunner. So
go listen to the Netrunner episode if you're interested.
Yeah, that's it. And
you should. It's great.
And although I was umming and ahhing between doing a Lord of the Rings episode, there's too many of the IPs that I just don't know, so I decided not to go for it. But
go on, get it all out your system.
This is getting it out of my system. So, War of the Ring, it's 1v1. You've got good guys versus bad guys, basically, and you can split it up, but I don't like to do that. Where you've got elves, dwarfs, men, or Gondor and Rohan, and then the North. So there's quite a lot of factions, and they're all over the map. You start off, and essentially, what I really like about the game, it is a straight kind of fighty game. It's risk on flipping, steroids basically, with the Lord of the Rings map, but there's so many little differences, and what I love about it is that there's obviously so much more military power with the bad guys, and you feel like if you're the good guys, you're up against it, like straight away, turn one, you are fighting it, and I love that part of it, how it feels very asymmetric, which turns a lot of people off, but I think especially with the expansion, for those of you who've played it, you'll understand that it kind of evened it out and balanced the game really nicely. So before, it was much more of a 65-35 split in the favour of the forces of evil would actually win. But the expansion gave the good guys a little bit,
So what's that expansion? Is that one?
So the expansion now, I think it's called, is it Lords of Middle Earth, I think it's called.
Yeah.
But essentially, the rings were already in it, but they amped them up.
Right.
They amped them up. They gave you more dice. If you remember the way the game plays, is you roll the dice and you can do one action for each dice that you've got. Gave them more dice for the different characters you've got. It made that, especially early game, a lot more 50-50. Even though you've got less troops, you didn't really feel like you had to do less.
Yeah.
It really evened it out, in my opinion. And the other thing I really like about the game, and like I said, I could talk for ages about this game, I absolutely flipping love it, but the other thing I like about it is you can win in two different ways. So you can either win through pure expansion, really, and conquest. So for example, the evil guys need to get to 10 victory points, all right, which is 2 for taking a big stronghold and 1 for taking a smaller one, basically, of the good guys. And the good guys, because they're so much weaker, they only need 4 points. But they're so much less likely to be able to take anything.
That's tough.
Like 4 is...
They just get the shit kicked out of them
exactly. You're just constantly like, no, leave me alone. So you can win that way, either one. Or you can win, and this is a Lord of the Rings specific IP stuff, I suppose. If you're the good guys, you can get the ring to Mordor. You can put it in the fire of Mount Doom, and there you go, you're the winner, But you've got to kind of get there before being found out and corrupted by Sauron. So that's kind of the push and pull. So whilst you're fighting people off, you've got these loads of dice that you've rolled. Now, do you spend them on getting more troops in to defend against the evil guy who's absolutely rampaging across the land, or do you spend the dice on slowly getting the Fellowship nearer to Mordor and reducing their corruption, all this kind of stuff? So it's a brilliant kind of, what do I prioritise, And the same goes for the evil guys. Again, you can do it 10 points with strongholds and things like that. Or you can corrupt the Fellowship up to, I think it's 12 points of corruption. If you manage to get to that point, you've turned Sam and Frodo, basically, and they've, given into the sway of the ring kind of thing. So yeah, I've always liked that kind of, always trying to balance those two bits. But yeah, one of my favourites, always whenever I play it, it is a bit of a setup. It takes about an hour to set up.
I know.
And it is a bit of a nightmare in that way. But once I get into
the bases, though, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I won't take credit for that.
No.
Becky offered to paint the bases, and I accepted. But it just, because the factions, all of the colour looks all the same, but it's useful to have them split off. So Becky's very lovingly painted all the bases of all the different factions, so instantly which one's which.
So they're Rohan, they're Gondor, they're
exactly.
This.
Yeah. So that makes it a lot easier to set up, I have to say. But yeah, and once you know the game as well a little bit, or one of you does at least, it flows a little bit better. But yeah, absolutely love it. War of the Ring, my favourite 1v1 game. Again, you can split it up in 2v2, but that would be not something I would ever do.
It's the rebellion effect, isn't it? It's just taking a role and splitting into and then going, that's a two player each side. And I just doesn't work for me.
Doesn't work at all. So yeah, that's mine, guys. So JP, what's yours?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one. I think recently I really, really enjoy Hoplomachus Remastered as 1v1. Because
great game.
that mode, for me, is probably the best of all of the modes I have in the game. It's just where it sings. It's quick, it's fast. You can play a game in about an hour, maybe under an hour. So I remember the 3 games we had the other week or the other month, where I think we played 3 matches in one evening. Brilliant. So you have like I can't remember if it's 6 or 7 factions, all kind of loosely based off kind of civs in history. So.
Antiquity.
Yes, and they all are quite similar and they have asymmetric units and things like that. But if anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's a Chip Theory games, surprise. But it's a reimagining of their older IP. It's the very first game that they ever released, which was pretty much hand cranked out. All the artwork was kind of crowdsourced and done for free or royalty free off the internet and all that kind of stuff. So it just had a bit of the Chip Theory love, and it's all the artwork's just been zhuzhed up and it just looks pretty spectacular. But it's just a gladiatorial arena skirmishy battle game.
I
And
love
it's
it.
simple,
Right, yeah.
I love it.
but it's just great, and you kind of work the crowd favour, and the more kills you get, the more and again it depends on what arena you're fighting. My personal favourite is the Colosseum, because your hero is chained up at the start, which means he's vulnerable and he can't move, but people can kill him, so you're naturally trying to defend your hero and trying to go on the offence as well, and obviously it's circular, and it just works really well. But getting crowd favour, unlocking little benefits for your team, unlocking your heroes. You can send the big boy out, and it has those double thickness chips as well, which is quite nice to muck around with. And it's just that to me is the epitome of me versus you. It's like I've got my team, you got your team, and it's like it takes you back to a kid when you're like playing with your toy soldiers and they're playing with the toy soldiers and you're just going, nah.
Honourable mention to crossbows and catapults, I will say.
And it reminds me of that. But obviously there's a framework and there's a game involved, but it just brings you into the I've got my stuff, and you're rolling loads of dice, and I just love it. Great fun.
I'd forgotten about Hoplomachus. I'm gonna request that
You
soon.
need to do a 1v1.
I'd be
Where it's
interested
at.
to play 1v1
Yeah.
with you for sure.
Yeah, we should do that. For me, 1v1. Mwah.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet, man. T, what about you?
So I love Star Wars Rebellion. I thought that's one of my favourite. But the one I really love at the moment, which is again Marcus's fault, is Kapow. It's just I bring it all.
I forgot about
the-
Oh, I need to
Yeah.
play
Wow.
this.
I just love it. It's just a dice attack. Beat him up 1v1. You played it once a week, couldn't you? And then you played it a bit.
Loved it.
Yeah, I love the fact that you roll your dice and then you hide them from the other person. You choose what you want to do, and it's that excitement of what are you doing then? What's he going to do?
Kapow!
If you're going to defend it, or is he going to punch me, or is he going to power up? It's just really good fun.
Yeah.
And then the way you're powering up and building your own dice as well. It's just so much fun.
I remember in the final turn of that game, I was just like, right, I'm going to go for it earlier, just put everything in offence and hope he hasn't got enough defence. And I did
Which I did.
just enough.
I perfectly
damage
defence and
going
I couldn't do it, could I? Yeah, no.
that
But that's
was
all
really
he normally runs down to the end of Kapow. It's always the last hit. It's like, right, defend as best you can and then attack right at the end.
Yeah.
And if you have the highest defence, you keep the first player, which is always an interesting mechanic as well. So you always
okay.
want way interesting to keep defending, to keep the first player.
So you get first.
Because you get first punch, because then if you die, you don't get time to defend, do you? So
No.
it's that's the world it works: attack, defend, power up, and then any other offensive abilities go on as well.
So does that have, when you said you customise the dice, is that like Dice Forge?
like-
where you-
Yeah, it's dice
Yeah.
forge. Yeah.
But
It's
you
called the
can pop
action
it,
dice. You've got trait dice, which are all the built dice, raid dice, and you've got the action dice, which are big black dice where you put your own faces on.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they've got the same symbols as the trait dice.
Yes.
But you plug them in yourself.
But you gear it up however you want to.
But what's interesting about it is it starts with nothing basically,
Yeah.
so you just got a blank dice. You have to buy the dice basically, and
Buy the
then
sides
you
that-
buy the sides on top of that. So it's
Yeah.
kind of it's
Interesting.
really
Yeah, I'll have to give it a whirl.
There's definitely some moments in that game where you reveal and someone thinks they've absolutely nailed you to rights, and
Yeah.
it's like, I've just played this special, which means you can't do anything this round, and you just can see their face drop,
Right.
and it's like, I'll take first player, both on 2 health points. Now it's my turn.
And I'm going to headbutt you.
I
Yeah.
like the predicting stuff in it as well. So it's like if the other player does X, then you get Y. It's like,
Yeah.
oh god damn it! I was 50-50 between those two as well,
Yeah.
and you got me.
Yeah, there's some
That's
nice.
cool,
There's some nice moments. It was a surprise hit out of the expo for me. It didn't interest me. Thought it's a dice
No.
chucker, not going to
Yeah.
interest me. Generic superheroes, not even IP superheroes. I was
Yeah.
like, not sure about
No.
this. And then I've played it a few times now, and it's definitely sort of every time produced a different 1v1 experience.
Nice. It's quick as well. It's like you've done it in 20 minutes, haven't you? Half an hour. You can.
Yeah, I mean,
depending on how
do
you want to
best
give
of
them.
3 or best of 5 or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's
But
just
yeah,
fun.
I'm really struggling with this one because I
Okay.
don't know that any of the big games that I play 1v1, I play 1v1 quite a lot, like really make it into my top 10, 20 for being 1v1.
Okay.
I enjoy, with 1v1 games, I enjoy quite a lot of the mechanisms that you can't really do in multiplayer, but they're not like, oh, this is great. So I'm just thinking of things like It's a Wonderful Kingdom. So I love It's a Wonderful World and made no secret of that. It's a Wonderful Kingdom still does the empire building thing, but it does an I split you choose. So you're splitting cards into separate packs and getting the other person to choose, and some of them are face down and some of them can be negatives, and you're kind of playing that little mind game of like, have I placed that face down because I want it and I want you to think it's a bad thing, or have I placed it face down because I want you to have it because it's rubbish and I want the other side? And it gives you a different mindset because you're also not holding on the best cards till last. You're quite often trying to get them in second or third round to last, so you get to pick them up yourself and you're trying to play that bluffing game. And that you don't really see much of that in multiplayer games. It's pretty much, I've only seen like I Split You Choose in 1v1 games for the most part. And I'm also thinking of games like Blitzkrieg, which is World War II, Axis versus Allies, Tug of War, 5 different theatres. You're pulling chits out of a bag and holding on to them, and then you're playing them to pull this rope, this like tug of war towards one end or the other. And then whoever wins the most theatres out of these 5 areas, the first time you play it, you won't get your head into, or I certainly didn't, the first couple of times you won't get your head into the flow. So it's a bit like It's a Wonderful Kingdom, that I Split You Choose, because it's not really prevalent in anything else. It's a flow that you don't maybe get instantly. It's wasn't built up in my brain. And it's the same with Blitzkrieg. This tug of war and the way it works wasn't naturally built into my brain, so I had to I had to learn the game a little bit more. But because they're 20-minute rounds, I don't mind that. And it's like, okay, we'll play this little tug of war, and then you start and learn the other person's habits and stuff like that, of where you think they're going to go and what you think they think is strong and all that kind of stuff. And so I like a lot of 1v1 games, but none of them really like hit my top list. And so it was more around the mechanisms of, and again, you mentioned abstract games. I played That Time You Killed Me recently, and I played,
I want to play that.
which is basically drafts, but across 3 different boards where you can travel backwards and forwards in time.
Yeah.
But it's basically just drafts. Like, it's not, there's no craziness like chess or anything like that. But because it's across 3 different boards,
Yeah.
again, it's about learning what the other player sees and what they don't, and playing off that as you play through several rounds.
Yeah.
And that's what I find a lot of these 1v1 games that I enjoy play across several rounds, and you're learning the opponent as you go. And I think that's just because I played so much chess when I was younger that that's kind of what you do. You learn, because if you're on a circuit or anything like that, you'll see the same players again and again, and you'll start getting into their mindset, and then you can start and play the individual more than just the game.
All right, guys, thanks for that. That'll be pretty much the main section done, so moving on. Right, so now it's time for Would You Rather. So today's Would You Rather is a little bit of a segue away from normal, in the fact it's kind of just a choice between one or two. It's not so much of a discussion point, but hopefully we can turn it into something. Here we go. Would you rather lose to someone who's a bad winner, or win against someone who's a bad loser? So I'll give you my take on it while you guys think about it. And I might be a little bit biased in this one. I'd rather lose to someone who's a bad winner. Mainly because I think I'm a bloody bad winner. So therefore I'm a little bit biased. But I'd rather lose to someone who's a bad winner, because actually I'm more interested in my own performance than I am. Like, apart from Davey, I do like smashing him to bits. But apart from that, I'd
That's
rather,
for you, Davey,
as long as I've got a decent game, do you know what I mean? I don't mind if Adrian puts me by a couple. It's not the end of the world, because Adrian done rub it in, But And if I lose to JP, you know, he's the worst. He's the worst winner in the world. Same as me, really. We're kind of even pig. And like, I swear to God, sometimes he runs around the table, but I quite like that. I think it's quite funny.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't affect me in the slightest. I quite enjoy your. I kind of get into your enjoyment of that moment. You know,
It doesn't happen. That's why.
It does happen. You play yourself down a little bit. You do fine. But yeah, so I would rather lose to a bad winner, I think, than beat someone for the joy of beating someone and then be really shirty about it. That's kind of my take on it. What about you guys? So JP, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, when you win against a bad loser, again, you know my answer. Like, if anyone around the table has a shit time, it means I have a shit time.
Yeah.
So if I win and the person's just going, you know, sorry, Adrian. It can diminish the game.
Yeah.
Like the night in the event,
right?
For me,
yeah, sure.
So I kind of think, well, that's kind of taken the wind out of the sails then. So it just kind of nullifies the win in my own head, even though it hasn't. And so I'll probably go for lose to a bad winner, because that happens a lot. Did it go?
Yeah. Who does that happen with? Yeah, really.
I think lose to a bad winner, isn't it? It's what I'm used to. So that makes sense. What's the other option? I get
where's the violin?
So you can either lose to a bad winner or win
to a bad
loser.
Win
to a bad loser.
So you can win, which is great.
Yeah.
But someone's going to take it real bad.
I think that's okay with me.
There we go. So,
I think that's okay. Yeah, suck it up, innit?
Yeah.
So, you know, it happens.
See, for me, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable when people get shade. But for you two, you're like, fuck it, whatever.
There's a caveat to mine.
Okay, go on.
If I'm hosting, then I'd rather lose. But if I'm not hosting, because it's not my event,
right? So there's no shit. Right? Okay, fine. Yeah, well, that works.
No, because then I'm like, well, not my game.
Yeah, fair enough.
Weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's the way my brain works.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, but you kind of want everyone to have a good time in your if you're hosting, don't you? So if someone's a bad loser, it can upset people, can't it?
Exactly.
So not you necessarily, but the other people.
If I'm turning
and if you're hosting, it's all on you, isn't it?
Yeah, if I go to Tambo's house and for a game night, and then someone else is there just going, I'll be like, mate, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's just way off my head.
No, I get it. I get that.
Go on,
Adrian?
Oh, this is really tough.
That's the point of it.
It's a tough one. Because I know that I get shirty if I feel I haven't played a good game, win or lose. If I've made an obvious mistake, it tilts me. Like as we were talking before, I get in my own head and then I start to not enjoy the game, and then I don't hide my face so everyone can see that that's where I'm at.
You make it obvious that you're annoyed with yourself a lot of the time, though. You don't. I would say yes, but you don't project it.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. That's. But I'm aware that JP hates when that happens around the table, and then I feel like I've annoyed JP because he's now annoyed that I've not enjoyed the game. When I'm probably enjoying the game, I'm annoyed with myself because I've not had a great game. And I've said it a few times, haven't I? Like I've enjoyed that. I had a terrible time. Like,
and I'm like, hey,
because I enjoyed playing the game, but I didn't play a good game, and therefore I'm annoyed with myself. So that's kind of like the reflection of me. But which one of those two is tough? Because I think I'm going to say that I'd rather win and have a bad loser. Probably just from a self-reflection point of I'm hoping it's not because they actually don't like, that I lost, and it's more a case of I didn't have the right setup, or I made the mistake or something like that, and that's why, because I know I get that, and so it's probably me putting a bit of myself into that person, whereas I'm sure I'm certain I've beaten bad losers before, who, especially in like wargaming and stuff like that, the dice rolled terrible. No, you rolled averages, and I can show you how you rolled averages, so don't blame your dice, you made a bad choice and all this kind of stuff, and I'd rather do that, because normally I'm like, well, it just happens. Sometimes the bad thing, like the odds don't work in your favour, or you just make a mistake or whatever. But yeah, I think I'd rather beat a bad loser.
I think as a group, I don't think we've really got any true bad losers.
A lot of bad winners, but not true.
We've got genuinely, like we've got some bad winners, and I would say I'm up there if I'm on it. I can't take the shit-eating grin off my face, sometimes. And
it's not the grin; it's the comments that come after the grin.
Wait, let me finish, right?
That cut deep.
So sometimes my mouth runs away before my brain's engaged. I will say that. But a lot of the times when you're saying the comments after a win is because I love winding you up. You specifically. Because it's fun. But yeah, I am a bit of a bad winner sometimes, and it's like I said, a lot of it is Like the stuff just to wind you up is deliberate, and I enjoy making you, annoyed with me, or even pretend annoyed at me.
Yeah, it's all good.
I enjoy that side of it, but the shit-eating grin I've got on my face of being self-satisfied, I'm afraid that is involuntary. I do my best, but it's just the way it is sometimes, I'm afraid.
It's tough, but competitive scene, and again, I don't like it anymore, but I used to love it. It's quite funny. If you get someone, like, it's more funny than it is that was a bad game.
My first experience of that was at a Keyforge tournament.
Oh, really?
I saw a different, but behind the curtain, I was like, "Oh my god, you're grown adults. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Seriously, this one guy was crying.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was crying. Come on.
Was that when you did it at the UKGE?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you get invested, I suppose, and I can't identify with that because I don't have that competitive mindset. So, I'm a bit like that with football. I'm like, it gives a toss. I don't care who wins. So, that's me.
Yeah, there we are. All right, well, there we go. Thanks, guys. That was,
good
would you rather? That ended up being
enjoyed
quite
that.
a good one. There we go, guys. On to the next section. So we're going to do the penultimate turn now. Right, guys, so what are we looking forward to? What we got coming up? Doesn't have to be board games or anything like that. So say whatever is coming up. With your people are making faces at me like I can't think of anything. So, JP, let's start with you.
Hello. I'm not going to talk about board games
Okay.
because I don't like them anymore.
Oh, he's gone off them.
Gone off them.
Oh, no.
No, I'm actually going to talk about, it's kind of news
Yeah.
and it's kind of what's coming up. So
Okay.
we're going to have some podcasty news because we've got, drum roll, you can do a little drum roll, we might not the mic, who knows. We've got a new player
Hey.
joining us in the podcast. But I can't tell you who it is yet, so it's a little tease. I'm just going to tease, yeah.
Gonna tease it.
So we've got new players joined, and in the next episode that you do, Kerley, in your kind of final one of your run, that person will be there. And
I should be an actor, really, shouldn't I? Because I was trying to make out as if I didn't know what you're talking about. But
No, sure.
They're in my episode, so
They're in your episode, and everybody in the podcast knows already.
Yeah.
Because, we're not that secretive, are we?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. I think it will add another little dimension to us. It's another voice to the podcast. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So
Yeah, definitely. Well,
that's my thing.
thanks for that, mate.
That's all
Awesome news. Adrian,
Yeah, so I have struggled, but I've come up with one.
come on.
Smartphone Inc.
Oh, it's two.
Oh.
Yes.
It's
okay.
soon. I've talked about this for quite a while, I think. It stayed at the top of my must-buy list for a long
Years,
time.
isn't
Yeah, it's been a while. But a good deal will come up, or I'll find something second-hand or whatever, and I'll just buy something a bit further down my must-buy list, and it just sat at the top for ages. I got back from the expo having found nothing in the Bring and Buy of good value. There's a few very overpriced copies in the Bring and Buy, and nothing at a stand that was of value or anything like that. So I literally got back from the expo, searched for Smartphone Inc. and found on a Facebook post someone who said they hadn't sold at the expo and offered them a price, and they sold it to me. That was quite a while ago, but finally getting a game of that in. Really looking forward to it. It's probably, from the name you can guess, it's about producing and selling smartphones. But there's some mechanisms in there I've just not seen, and so you get two cards and you cover one card up with the other partially, and what you cover up gives you certain things, and what you leave open gives you certain actions and abilities and stuff like that as well. So
That's
you're kind of taking these two cards, which are apps on a screen, like that's the visual look, but you're using them to cover up things that you want to cover up and try and leave open things you want to leave open, but they'll be different for different people. And of course, sometimes to get the cover up, you'll have to cover up something you wanted, and then you're going out to the market, you're trying to increase or decrease the cost of your phone and like create 4G or certain type of apps that go on your phone and then sell them to the markets that need them. And people are trying to bump up or bump down their own prices and your prices to make it harder for you to sell and undercut you and stuff like that. So there is a little bit of meanness there, but there's a lot of engine building and creating a unique product, which is kind of the smartphone industry, right? It's trying to create two products that are similar but not the same, so that they can compete against each other or in different markets and stuff like that. So I've been looking forward to this one for a long time, and I think it's a few weeks away, but I'm actually really hyped to play it.
Cool, man. Thanks for that. T-Bone.
I've got a nice week off, and at the beginning of the first week in October, I'm going down Bude for a week, which would be nice.
Sweet.
Nice.
And walk the dog, play lots of games as well. So I'll take that
my
my game
stomping
collection.
ground, Bude. That's
I
where
love
my
Bude, do it every year.
grandparents lived,
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that'll be good fun. That's pretty much what I've got to look forward to, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, nice, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still waiting on my gaming table. Still hasn't turned up.
Oh, how
When-
far
when
away?
is it?
Don't know, dear.
Well, no, it's they're hoping to get the Wave 0 out by the end of... It was supposed to be the end of last month, and I haven't heard nothing yet, so I'm on Wave 1.
So you're looking forward to something that is
I was hoping by the end of October,
distance.
but I don't think it's going to be end of
Before
October.
Christmas.
Because it's- hopefully before Christmas.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome, mate.
But
That'd be awesome.
yeah, but the Bude week off sounds really good.
Sweet.
You saying you're playing some games? What's
Yeah.
your gaming group going to look like there? Is it
It's just me and my
family?
brother.
Are you and
Really.
your brother?
My mum will
Oh,
play a
okay.
few games. She play Wingspan, and I'm going to take Patchworks. Is going to be good fun. Any
Yeah.
2-player games,
Yeah.
like that Star Wars one. And my brother's going to be Brass Birmingham, but I've never played it. I want to play it, and he's never played it. So I said, well, you got to do your homework and teach
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I don't want to like 2-player because it'll only be me and him playing it. But does it play well with 2?
I don't know.
I personally don't think so.
No.
I think it loses too much at 2-player, but it is a great learning game at 2-player. I
Learn it too.
I learned it at 2-player, a couple of playthroughs, and immediately felt like, oh, when the rest of because you don't have certain trade routes, and while you can use parts of the board, the cards aren't in there, so you have to use it using the industry cards, which probably won't make sense to you right now, but anyone who's played Brass Birmingham, it will. And so it kind of cuts off a large portion of the board at the same time. And there's less chance to nick other people's coal and iron and stuff like that. So it's a great learner at 2-player, and
That'll
actually
be
playing
worth
at
bringing in.
2-player, I think
Yeah.
it's great. But I would say that it's a much better game at 3 or 4-player.
I've only ever played it 3. Don't think I've even played it at 4, yeah. Unless we
Yeah.
played it at 4.
No, we played 3-player,
Yeah,
but I have
just
played
3.
4-player as well. And at 3 or 4-player,
It's
it's
great.
fantastic. It's a cracking game.
Yeah.
He's also bringing Star Wars Rebellion, and we're going to play a couple of games with them.
Nice.
And I gave him the expansion with the
Rise of the Empire.
Rise of the Empire one.
Just
So I bought that for his birthday, so he's bringing that with him, so I can play with that. So
Must
I'll play with that.
have.
Yeah,
just constantly
sweet,
stare at Hoth.
Yeah.
man.
Grand strategy.
Even if you're not there.
Even if you're not there,
Yeah.
just stare at it, because it's amazing what that can do to people. You
Just
keep
keep
staring
pointing
part
at
of
it.
the board.
Just keep pointing at half.
Yeah.
Or just
Okay.
just doing the slight hand twitch, like the slight, like you got your hand on your chin and you just kind of slightly point at a part of the board while you're thinking your turn through, and then hold on, I shouldn't be
Subliminary
doing that.
Endor.
Oh, nice one, T. Thanks for that, mate.
No worries.
So I'm going to talk about something that is way off potentially, but because I've just done it, I'm going to talk about it. So I have kickstarted Terraforming Mars Prelude 2.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
What a
So what a
surprise.
shock that is, I'm sure.
Is it just Prelude 2 you've done? Or have you done all the other bits?
Well,
have you got the
I've got a
maps?
list of exactly what
Go
I've
on.
done.
Read it
So
off.
I've got TM Prelude 2, which
Yeah.
is the main expansion, comes with new cards, new preludes, new corporations, all of the
Yeah.
kits, all that stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Tell me, okay.
No. Just,
But I've
I'm
also
excited.
then ordered
We're on the clock here. You got to split
Yeah,
up.
come on, mate.
seven neoprene mats. So
You've gone for the
mats.
7, have you?
7, of course.
And you've
Yeah,
already
whatever.
got some of these neoprene mats.
Yeah, so I've got some of them.
But these
but
are
not
better,
the
aren't
official
they?
ones, right?
Yeah,
so
they are nice.
Yeah, they are nice. So we've got the replacement for the 3 originals.
Yeah.
So Hellas, Elysium, and the base one,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got 4 new ones. But what I found are like 3 of them are quite different, but just variations really. But there's another one called Amazonia. I
Yeah.
write it down. Plantia.
The big one, isn't
Plantia.
it?
And that one increases the number of temperature slots that you've got.
Longer
It doesn't
game,
have
then.
degrees. And,
bigger game.
Yeah, there's 11 oceans and all that kind
tasty.
of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
6
it just
out of 10.
extends a little
Tasty,
bit,
yeah,
a bigger
love that.
map, all this kind of stuff.
It's not Giga or Geiger Terraforming Mars, then?
No, not Giga.
Yeah.
Becky said, "Oh, is the Giga one?" I was like, "No, this one's about 10% bigger. Giga's about 4 times bigger."
That's like 3 copies of Terraforming Mars, and it
Yes.
has like all the planets of the solar system in
Yeah.
there somewhere.
Oh,
It
yeah.
looks mad.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm not down for it, but yeah, that is an all-day job, I think. On
Yeah.
that one.
I actually might be quite interested in playing that.
I'd play
yeah.
it.
be
I would.
honest.
Giga.
100%.
Yeah, man, let's
Because
do it.
if you're
would.
turning it into a big day spectacle,
That would be a big day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it because I've voiced my opinion on the length of Terraforming Mars.
Why not make
But-
it 8, 9, 10 hours?
Why not make it 9 hours and make it a big game that you're going to talk about for years
It's
to
a
come?
mega game.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely down for it. I would
Get
be
the
up
mat.
for that,
You can
for
get
sure.
it online. I think on Etsy stores you can buy the mat.
Oh,
And I
I
think there's
kind of
enough of us
assumed
that
that
have
you
copies.
could put them together of the existing maps.
No, I think it's a
Is it
completely
a
different. I
complete
might be
different-
wrong. I
Oh,
don't know
haven't
enough.
looked into it very much.
Check it out.
Okay.
Look at the map, and you'll go, "Oh my god, there's a lot going on in here."
I don't know if we're definitely going to give it a go. I will probably.
Have we got
buy
enough
it.
copies of TM to do it though?
I've got
If
a
we
copy.
enough, yes.
I don't know how many copies you need. Don't you need 2? Is it 2?
Three, I think.
To be fair,
Who
Dan,
knows? We don't
Dan's
know.
got a copy as well.
There you go.
And, you know, we got other people.
I got a copy, but it's not like the 3D tiles or anything.
Not mad, is it?
No, it doesn't matter. There we are. Then we
As
have
long as we know who's is who's.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah, so it's also got, and this is the one of the big parts for me actually, is it's got milestones and awards that are totally flexible. So it's not fixed to the map anymore. So you can kind of, I don't even know how it works because it didn't make a big difference to me, but it kind of looks like they're individual. So you can shuffle them all in.
That's what they do with Ares Expedition.
Yeah.
They gave you individual ones and you just set up a random.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll just do
We
the
talked
variation,
weirdly
right?
talked about that on the Terraforming Mars episode. That wouldn't it be good if they did that?
Yeah, and then they've just announced this last week, a couple of days ago, and it's got that in it. So really chuffed about that. That's looking forward to that
Good.
side of it. The rest of it is mostly just like I gotta be honest.
Go on,
I've written it
mostly
down
what?
here. It's just bling, basically.
What bling?
We've got more 3D printed tiles.
Because of the bigger map.
Because of the bigger map, so that's cool. We've got more promos for this year, so 2023 promos, but it's also got 2020, 21 and 22 promos as well, which I've already got.
Because that project deck is not thick enough yet.
Well, this is it.
Yeah,
I thought it
in
needs to be a
there.
little bit bigger, but I've already got those, so I don't know what I'm going to do with those. But yeah, there we are, and sleeves for all of it basically, and that's pretty much it.
Nice.
So, and the Automa as well, which doesn't particularly appeal to me, but it was about $15 extra, and I thought, well, I'd rather have it than not.
And
there might
design,
be-
isn't it? And someone else who weighed in. I
Yeah,
can't
it
remember.
looks a lot better than the original game's single player. So I'm looking forward to. Well, I would never rule it out. I'm not. By the way, I'm not a solo guy, as anyone who's a regular listener would know. JP is more down that road. But I'd be interested to give it a go. If I get along with it, then awesome. But if I don't, then it might be just something that I could give away to a mate or something like that who
It
likes
completes a set, doesn't it? Ultimately, as well. Not that I ever imagine you'll get rid of it, but if it was to.
Yeah. You're all in. You're like me and Bones.
Yeah.
You're all in anyway.
Yeah.
So what the hell?
Oh mate, honestly, I just scrolled right past the ones on the beginning part of it. I'm like,
No.
what have they got on the bottom one?
No.
I was like, yeah, I'm having that. It's like, do you know what I mean? Something you're really passionate about that's in your board gaming is my main interest, and that is like touch and go. It's like it's always been top 3, and you could even argue overall it's probably number 1. So for something big to come out with loads of stuff, I'm like, oh, that looks cool. It's just like instantly, it's like, yeah, I don't care what else I've got to pay for it. That is happening.
Sweet.
Our final time is wrapping up and victory points are about to be scored. Thanks everyone for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe and review on your podcast player of choice. And we ask to share the podcast with at least one person who you think might enjoy this. Get in contact with the show on our socials. Alright, we've got all the main socials covered, so email by all means, Facebook, Insta, TikTok, Board Game Geek now, and we have got an account on Threads as well.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Well, whatever that is. But just, hey, look, interact with the episode, Are there any 1v1s that you really like? Or, tell us some of your favourites, any experiences you've had maybe with a bad winner or a bad loser that we find interesting.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Maybe, the cheat of how to look at a card on the BGA on
Yeah.
your phone
Yeah, well,
that
this
Kelly's
is
not
Kerley.
figured out.
Yeah,
Kerley.
please tell me. I've tried holding it down, I've tried clicking on it. I can't even, when you've played a card previously, if it's not the one on the top of the pot, I cannot work out how to look at that card behind it,
So if you've got some tips,
Yeah,
No,
BGA
please.
mobile tips for Kerley.
Yes, please. I will take it very gratefully. But yeah, so we're going to be back in 2 weeks with another episode. So until then, whose turn is it?